Hi there everyone, thank you for tuning in again, or hello if it's the first time you've been on the channel. So today's recipe is going to be goat's cheese linguine with garlic and mixed herbs. So it's a dead easy one, like a lot of my recipes, dead easy, dead quick, dead cheap. Why not try it? So let's crack on. So the first thing we're looking to prepare is our garlic. You can either use fresh garlic or you can use this crushed frozen block type garlic. Yes, fresh is nicer, but as I've said in other videos, in times of Brexit, in times of increasing food costs, in times of increasing power costs, save some money where you can if you wish. And frozen blocked garlic, although not just as nice as fresh, works. So we're preparing half a block of that or 2 cloves of fresh. And next up we're looking for 6 to 7 medium sort of size shallots. They do come much smaller if you're used to buying shallots. They do come occasionally larger. But this sort of size of shallots, as you see here, 6 towards 7 of them, depending on the sizes. 6 here because I've got 2 quite large ones in the mix. And if you haven't used shallots before, treat them just like onions. So we're just going to take the top off. We're then going to half them. We're going to de-skin them, de-root them, and then we're going to chop them. Now the way to chop them again is just like onions. You chop towards the root end, but you don't want to slice through completely. You want to leave a little bit attached so you can then cut at a 90-degree angle to the initial set of cuts, and that will give you your chopped shallot. Depending on how fine you make those cuts, it depends on how fine a chop you get. We're looking for reasonably fine with the shallots. And again, for clarity, from a slightly different angle, this time more from above, you cut towards the root, but do not cut through. You're then going to cut perpendicular to those original cuts, and depending on how fine you make the cuts in both directions will depend on how fine an actual chop you get. So we're looking for quite fine, so the cuts are quite close together. And if you need to, just as you do here, turn the root over slightly at the ends, just so you can get as much out of your shallot as possible and discard the waste. Then just set aside in a bowl. You can see the level of chop that you're looking for, and we're just going to cover them up. I like using these silicone liners, but cover them with whatever you have to hand, whether that's a cloth, whether that's a dish towel or kitchen roll, whatever. From here, all we're looking to do is to zest our lemon. I like to use these really fine graters. You can buy purpose-built lemon zesters, but I find this works really well for what you're trying to do. So you're just going to scrape it across the actual scraper, and you're trying to take all the yellow off, but leave the white. Don't want any white in it at all, because it's the white that's a bit bitter, it's not very nice, but the yellow part of the skin is what gives you that real zesty bit, and that's what we're looking for at the end of this meal. Again, many of you will know this, some of you won't. I'm covering all the bases with these videos. And just like the shallots, we're going to cover and we're going to set aside until we're ready to use it. Again, I'm using silicone liners, but cover with whatever you have to hand. And now we're going to half our lemon, and then we're going to juice it. I've got one of these little wee juicers here. If need be, you can just squeeze it all out by hand, but the juicer helps you get as much out as possible. I was very lucky with this one. There wasn't a single pip or seed in this lemon. Other times you need to fish out the seeds. Then transfer your lemon juice to a bowl. Of course, you can use bottled lemon juice if you don't have a fresh lemon to hand. Again, in times of Brexit, blah, that's what options always available. But you'll be using 3 to 4 tablespoons of the bottled stuff if you don't have a fresh lemon to hand. And now we're looking to add 3 tablespoons of capers to the lemon juice. Now, you're going to drain these just by putting your spoon in the jar and holding it sideways so most of the juice rolls out. If some transfers across, that's fine. You do have the option here of actually chopping up and dicing the capers, and it does change the mouth flavour slightly on the end dish. I like the whole capers because you just get that little bit of explosion occasionally throughout the dish, but try it both ways, see what you like, let me know, but you can do both. Now it's time to measure out our herbs and seasoning. So first of all, we're going to measure out 5 tablespoons of dried parsley, which is 10 grams of parsley. After measuring it out, I'm going to weigh it just for your own peace of mind, just to show you that 5 tablespoons is 10 grams, because you might question it in your mind, is that really that? And the biggest reason you may question it is when you come to mixed herbs, you're looking for 5 grams of mixed herbs, but that's only 1.5 tablespoons. So there's a discrepancy here, and that discrepancy is simply because mixed herbs are heavier than dried parsley. So we're looking for 1.5 tablespoons, 5 grams, and again, I'll prove it to you on the scales. Now, when you're doing it, you can just measure them straight into the same pot if you wish. I've put them in separate ones and now I'm adding them together. It was just because I was doing the proof of concept for you by weighing them. And to the same tub of herbs, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt, and we're going to follow that up with half a teaspoon of black pepper. Now, when it comes to your cheese, my personal opinion, firm is really the only way to go with this dish. You've got the choice of using a softer cheese if you want, but it's really going to change the end dish's overall flavours. The cheese, when it's a softer one, seems to dominate. By using the firm cheese here, as we see, the flavours at the end are much more dispersed, and it's the far better way to go. But it is an option if you can't get your hands on firm, but I don't think it's anywhere near as nice a dish as if we don't use the firm. So initially you're going to slice it along the long length, and then as you see here, we're just going to turn our knife perpendicular and cut it into about 6 to 8 millimetre slices, just so that we've got a really good size for cooking off. I've mentioned it in other videos and I haven't actually shown the packet. This is the Flora plant butter that I'm talking about when I say use Flora's vegan butter and not their normal spread, not the normal margarine type thing that's been around for decades. It's those butters there, whether it's the salted or the unsalted variety, it depends on what actual one you're doing, but it's those Flora butters that, in my opinion, act exactly the same way as dairy butter in every recipe I've tried them, to the same weight, to the same performance. So if you can get a hold of them, it's better for the planet. Even if it's only a small step, it's a good way of going. So these butters here. And I really should mention it's 75 grams of the butter that we're looking for, because I don't think I actually said that. I was too busy on a rant about use this. And to a large saute pan or other large non-stick pan of some sort of similar nature, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of our oil, followed up by our butter. Now, if you're using dried pasta, before you start to heat this pan, you need to get your pasta on the boil, because the pasta is going to take longer to cook than the rest of the actual main dish from this stage forward. So if you're looking for it al dente, your linguine is going to take about 10 minutes, and if you're looking for a slightly softer mouthfeel, you're going to take about 12 minutes. So you need to get your pasta on before we crack in with this stage, because this is only going to take a few minutes to cook. So whilst the water's coming to the boil, we're going to set our pan here to a medium-low heat on the ring, and we're going to watch for the butter starting to froth. When the butter is beginning to froth, that's when it's time to start cooking our shallots. Whilst this is coming to temperature, line a grill pan with tin foil, spray it with a very fine coating of oil, and lay your cheese across it. Set your grill to a high heat, and once the grill's at a high heat, we're going to put our cheese in about the same time that our shallots are starting to cook as well, and that way we can get both processes going off at the same time. Now, it's perfectly fine if your cheese is a little bit messed up and all over the place, just as you see on mine. The important part of it is it's spread out evenly enough so that all the cheese gets a good heat coming down on top of it. Now, once your butter's melted the stage you just saw, give it a wee mix together, just so it's all fully throughout the oil, and we're going to again look for that sort of frothing. As soon as that frothing's happening, which is almost happening now, you can just see it beginning in the centre of the pan, it's time to add your shallots. And we're going to fry the shallots for 3 minutes. Move them regular, but you don't need to be moving them constantly. We're just looking for a good coating across them and a nice frying across all the sides. As soon as you've got your shallots fully coated, all moved around, you're going to add your garlic. Again, either half the frozen block, which has been defrosted, or 2 fresh cloves, which you've chopped up nice and fine. Options there for either of them. The fresh is slightly nicer, as always, but you know my explanation as to why I'm demonstrating with the frozen blocks. And now we're going to add our lemon juice and capers, followed immediately by our herbs and seasoning. And we're going to mix everything together just so it's all fully coated, and we're going to cook this for a minute, minute and a half, maybe two, until it's warm. And our cheese, which we had under the grill, we're now going to add to this pan. So just bring your foil lined grill pan over and slide your cheese in. It's very, very melted at the minute, but we're going to let our pan stand at the end once we've cooked everything for about 2 minutes, and you end up with lovely little clumps of hard melted cheese throughout the entire dish. It's yum, 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 yum. But it looks a bit different just now from how it's going to end up after we've actually mixed it all together and then let it stand for those minute, minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes at the end before serving. You can see the process happening already when you start to stir it into the mixture here. You've got a granulated form of the cheese forming, but you need to let it sit at the end for, say, those 2 minutes, and it gives you the best performance out of it for what you're expecting the dish to be. If you serve it straight off in a hot pan as it is, it's a little bit too melted. You want to give it that couple of minutes just at the end to sit. It gives you time to get your pasta drained and your pasta into a bowl. So again, you let the pan sit aside for just that couple of minutes, and hopefully, as you can see here, everything's come together and you get that sort of granulated nature to the cheese. If you use the soft cheese, which I did mention you can use earlier, you don't get this granulated nature. It stays very melted and throughout it, and it overpowers a lot of the other flavours with the cheese. By doing it this way with the mild firm cheese, the cheese isn't overpowering and killing off the rest of the flavours. You can do it that way and it's like an almost entirely different dish, just with that one cheese change from the soft to the firm. It's sometimes something you might want, but I think it's far better every time with the hard. And then just garnish with your lemon zest, which you'd previously prepared earlier, and you're ready to go. And it's gorgeous. So there we go, another very easy, none too difficult pasta to make. It's full of flavour, it's very zesty, it's very sharp in your mouth, but it's really, really nice. I might prove that again to you. Now, you've got two options when cooking this one. You can grill the cheese the way that I just did, or you can dump the cheese straight in the saute pan. It depends on the mood you're in. If you're feeling lazy, dump it straight in the pan. Otherwise, grill it and then add it later. There's not masses of difference, and I'm on the fence which way I prefer, so try either. But you really feel the lemon zest coming through the cheese, coming through the onions. It's really nice, but really cheap, really simple. It's what I'm all about, so hope you enjoy it. Take care. All the best.